Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. I've had a record number of you guys, the valued viewers, contact me and say, Cap, do a video about this. Usually it's just one or two, but I've had like 10 just today, and I figured, okay, let's go and do it. It's all about Darpa. I apologise, I'm not sure what Darpa stands for. I'm sure we'll find out shortly, but it's about AI trials, about getting AI to fly aircraft and see if you can get it to fly aircraft better than humans. It's about that, and I couldn't first of all understand what the big deal was about, and I still don't really understand what the big deal is about, because we do this every day in DCS. We get very clever AI subroutines, algorithms from Eagle Dynamics, and we go and fight against them. Sometimes they win, sometimes we win, but maybe I'm missing the big picture. First things first, let's all go and fill ourselves in with what's actually going on with Darpa here.
We're really excited to participate in the trials, and we're looking forward to see who wins.
This is a fantastically run competition and is really pushing AI to where it needs to be.
The Alpha Dogfight trials are designed to challenge algorithms capable of performing autonomous platform maneuvers in a simulated, within visual range air-to-air engagement, otherwise known as a dogfight.
We are here at the Alpha Dogfight trials to see if we can get algorithms to perform at a level that human beings would eventually trust one day.
8 technically and organizationally diverse teams were selected to test their intelligent, autonomous agents against an APL-developed adversary agent in a series of simulated dogfights.
Even though we're in first place, our agent still came in slightly lower than our expectations. We actually wanted it to be better.
We're definitely going to take a look at our ground avoidance routine, as well as our bank to turn routine.
Alpha Dogfight trials are a subset of a larger program inside of Darpa called ACE, the Air Combat Evolution Program. And in ACE, what we're trying to do is demonstrate scalable, trusted human autonomy for air combat.
The goal is to successfully recognize and exploit adversary weaknesses and mistakes, and to maneuver to a position of control while denying and defeating the adversary's weapon employment zone.
One of our agents plays very conservatively, so it flies around in a way that has a pretty low probability of crashing, but it also has a pretty low probability of scoring hits.
This is the first of 3 Alpha Dogfight trials competition events. Trial number 1 is an exhibition match with the opportunity for teams to compete different agents and test the simulation environment at scale. Trial number 2 is the first competition where teams will be ranked against each other and test their solutions against more challenging adversary agents. Trial number 3 is the final competition and will take place in Las Vegas, Nevada. Teams will compete against each other in a bracket-style competition, with the top teams advancing to fight against U.S. Air Force fighter pilots in a simulated dogfight.
Okay, chaps, so that's the synopsis of what's going on. That's an old video, obviously, because it's all happened now. It's finished. And my understanding is that one of the teams obviously won. I'm not sure which one it was, but they won. And then that went on to fight some actual real-life pilots to fly these planes. And then the computer, the algorithm, beat those pilots in a simulator. Again, a bit like DCS if we had a guy flying and they flew against the AI. Okay. First thing we would like to inquire about is, what's this thing we're looking at? What's this video game with the terrible graphics that we're looking at? My understanding is that it's ACE, ACE. And I've forgotten what it stands for, but I believe it's the USAF equivalent of DCS World, if you like, the kind of professional quote-unquote version. Why does it look crap? Well, because USAF don't need it to look pretty. They don't need to sell copies of this. It just needs to do the good job. The reason I kind of know this is because I've got not a salesman, but a user of ACE who works for the USAF coming, and I'm going to do an interview on him. So I've got to get used to this ACE thing and see if it's actually any good. In my experience, these kind of things are pretty terrible, and free market software like DCS is a lot better, but I don't really know. So my first question to you guys is, what's all this raving about? Why is everyone raving and raving about the results of this? Try not to talk over each other.
It's in the ACE environment, and going from the ACE environment to like a drone to an actual F-16, which I believe is their projected path, is a much simpler proposition than going in DCS to a model aircraft to an actual aircraft, because the flyby, all the controls are the same. for me, the biggest thing to take away was it looked a lot like the R2-D2s on the American carriers. Once it got its nose locked on, it just kept it pointing the whole way and got real quick gun skills.
Against the human? Are we talking about against the human?
Well, they were dogfighting each other as well. The algorithms were fighting like dummy algorithms, and then they were fighting each other, and then the winner of all this bracket eventually went on to fight what was his name? I forget his call sign.
Pilot,
but they fought the F-16 pilot and won 5-0.
Roger.
Usually with high aspect gun skills that were just laser beam on him the whole time.
Roger. I mean, I think we're going to come back to exactly that. I mean, back to my question. The root of my question is, what's the excitement about this? Is the crux of the excitement that the AI routine beat the human in the fight? Is that what everyone's jumping up and down about?
Yeah, exactly. In the same way when Big Blue beat the World Chess Championship, when IBM's AI took that on, it was big because it beat a human. That's why this is big right now. It's because it beat a human 5-0.
Right. Anyone else got a take on that before I put my thing in there?
Well, the Air Force might take it as a sign that they need to practice dogfighting as well. It really has been a long time for any Air Force to be in a real dogfight. It's been decades.
I think it's proof of concept, though, isn't it? The aim is to prove that an AI could potentially be good enough to fly an aircraft in a combat situation.
Sure.
I think so. One of the DARPA talking heads was talking about integrating this into not only autonomous vehicles, but also maybe integrating it into the normal fly-by-wire computer avionics, so that in a close-in knife fight, the pilot could go hands-off and let the computer figure out how to get its nose on to get a gun's kill.
Well, my take on this is I can't understand what the excitement that the AI beat the human. You see, the humans, highly trained, we've poured lots of money into making him a very good dogfighter and whatnot, but humans are intrinsically bad at things. They're full of huge inefficiencies in every way, in which computers are not full of. Computers are pretty much infallible, pretty much perfect. If you get them to do a task, they're hundreds of times more efficient, thousands, millions of times more efficient than a human. So if you program it to fly a jet in a dogfight and be as good as it can, of course it's going to beat a human. Humans are terrible at everything. Incredibly inefficient vehicles they are. So I just can't understand. And then this is assuming that it's a fair fight in that the sensory input is the same, in that the computer has to look at the target like a human does. It can't just know like it does in DCS. DCS, it knows where you are because it's just the easiest way to do it. I'm guessing here the algorithm have to kind of see and hear and have all the obstructions in the cockpit and stuff like the pilot has. And even sorry, go ahead.
That's not true for this round. This round, the AI had perfect knowledge.
Well,
next round, they'll have sensors.
I mean, of course it's going to win. I mean, this is just like fighting a really, 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 really good, as in purposefully really good. Yeah, it is. Purposefully really good AI on DCS. You will never win because it's infinitely efficient. And humans are infinitely terrible.
Well, and you take out the human element, too, so they can't...
but yeah, exactly. Can AI tell the difference between an enemy and a friendly? Can it think for itself? Can it change its mind? Can it has it got empathy?
Well, no. Well, we'll come on to that. Okay. We'll come on to that. But just stick with what I'm talking about at the moment, about why people are interested in the fact that the computer's beating the human, and then we'll talk about the wider implications. Apollo, go.
If I may, I'm not an expert in this technology, but I am a programmer professionally, and I know a little bit about it. But so the way they train these AI is they take examples of people dogfighting, and they keep training them hundreds and hundreds of times. What they lack, though, is creative intelligence.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that they plan to have like swarms of drones wingmanning human pilots. I think that's the plan right now.
Yeah.
So they're going to combine them, because the creative, strategic thinking skills of the human with the just raw technical skill of the AI, the consistency of it that a human just can't match.
Okay.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, so it sounds like we're looking at the wider implications on now, and that's fine. And yeah, absolutely. Like you guys said, the computer, realistically, within our lifetime, is never going to be able to have the creativity, if that's the right word, that a human does. A human can create things. It can create art.
Critical thinking.
Thinking. The computer can't do that very well. Maybe one day we'll have Skynet and it can really, really, really think like a human. But at the moment, it's just not there. So with today's, if you like, AI technology, absolutely, the best way to employ that would have a human lead, and then a bunch of wingmen, which are these little, small little things or whatever. It doesn't matter what they are. They are entities. They are little planes or something. They go off and do the actual fighting, if you like, because then you've got the boss is the human with the critical thinking and the creativity which is needed in a fight. And then the little guys go in, and they're almost like the missiles. Missiles are computers. They've got AI at the end of the day. Very simple, obviously. And then again, they go and essentially follow the orders and do the fighting, right? And
definitely.
And that way, you're keeping the humans safe, which is obviously good. And another thing about it, I don't know if you guys talked about this before, but how cheap it would make a flying entity, because I'm assuming half the cost of an aeroplane up in the sky must be the pilot, right? He must have cost a fortune to train and maintain a pilot, and it's a very, very valuable asset. So think how much cheaper that flying thing is, whatever it is, drone, plane, is if it's not got a pilot in it. Any more thoughts around that?
It can also be smaller because you don't have all the life support equipment the pilot's going to need.
Sure.
So you got a much smaller plane as well as being cheaper.
G tolerance?
And into that, G tolerance would be huge.
Well,
in the same vein, the ability to just escalate your testing is exponentially quicker. Look at like SpaceX, where they're just shooting shit off basically, and if it blows up, it blows up. There's no one on it.
And this is why AI. And this is why I was talking about the Tempest earlier on. This is why I was saying I can believe in the next 5 or 10 years that will be the future of jet warfare. It will be a jet that carries drones that can go out and do things that pilots can't. But the pilot will be the main source who's giving the orders, but I think mainly it will be the equipment that's doing most of the work, because these days it can prosecute it with precision and
The thing is, though, that pilot doesn't have to be in the plane. He can be sitting down in Florida somewhere flying the drone delivery platform.
I disagree with that entirely. For a strong electronic warfare battlefield, you're not going to get radio signals or satellite signals in or out.
Nah, that's why with the Tempest, if you're, just say for example, the drones it carries have a 50-mile, 100-mile radius from its mothership. As long as it stays within range of its mothership, that's more realistic than a drone that can go around the world. I mean, that's just my opinion.
No, I think they'd end up using low Earth orbit satellites. They'd hijack some of Elon Musk's satellites to form the communication.
Well, Elon Musk said the jet fighter, in his opinion, is dead. The future of warfare is AI. That's his opinion, apparently.
But you'd have to trust that AI. Now you got a pilot who's multitasking, not only controlling his aircraft, now 5 others. And now you've got the empathy there. Where's the empathy?
Yeah.
Are they going to be on target? I don't. Yeah, you're going to have somebody there.
Exactly, because as we know, AI takes its orders from us at the moment. It can't think for itself.
The thing about electronic warfare was really good. That's a really big thing now. You got to think of the electromagnetic spectrum as another theater of war now. It's a serious thing. So having that situational awareness with the pilot, if the GPS or radio signals or whatever are not, you don't need to necessarily crack them and conduct espionage. If you just jam them, sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
To cause a lot of disruption. So yeah, that's a huge thing now.
I've got a question.
So say in an air-to-ground mode, what if they switch houses? Well, say if they're going after a house and terrorist just skips house to the next house and that drone goes after it.
It's trial and error, isn't it? I mean, you're not going to know unless you give it a go, unless you build it, give it a go, and see what happens.
I've got a theoretical question for you guys, based on what you just said. So let's say your mothership, let's say you've got a pilot in your mothership, okay, and it sends out the drones, okay? They're almost like really, really clever missiles in a way, aren't they? They can go out and they think on themselves and go and do their mission. Now, what happens if Russia, China, whatever, come and jams your signal, okay, and you can no longer communicate with your baby or whatever you want to call it, with your drone? do you at that point? Well, here's the big question. Do you at that point, A, allow it to go solo and think for itself, and it can do whatever it wants within reason, or B, does it self-destruct? That's a what's the word for that, guys? It's damn it, ethic. It's an ethical question.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking of. It's a bit of half a dozen. It's a bit of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other days. It's
but that's things that'll have to be thought about by Elon Musk or whoever's making these, because that's going to happen. Russia's going to jam those signals. What are you going to let? Are you going to let it off the hook, or are you going to blow it up? It's an interesting question.
No, I think if you use communications with the drone, then what you're going to do is rely on the backup secondary targets, which are all programmed in through terrain mapping, which don't require a GPS to find their way. So there'll always be something like a backup target that needs to be destroyed, some oil refinery or something else. And if their initial communications with the mothership are down, it says, okay, you fall back to your backup target, go in and blow that to shit.
We've actually seen knock out a GPS satellite, it's over. Knock it off by 10 degrees, he won't hit the target.
We've seen this in real life, actually. There was, the Flying Wing drone that Iran not only jammed the signal back to the American pilots, but then also spoofed the GPS to just send it into a circle until it ran out of fuel and crashed.
Spaced Chef wants to speak.
Yeah, so then you get a bit in the information security spectrum. Then it's the race between the guys who wants to hack the drone and the guys who want to protect it.
Yeah, you need some sort of failsafe, because just take China's well known for copying lots of Russian and other planes. Just imagine one that gets lost, and then say one gets downed over Syria, and then the Syrians sell the plane to the Chinese. If everything's all self-contained and you've got no control of it, the Chinese just go and make a rip-off copy immediately, doing none of the research and things from there.
I mean, I would say the first drones that come out would probably be drones that you program their flight plan, and they'll go out and do that and then return, to where wherever they meet you. Maybe further down the line, then you'll have drones that will go out and be able to just fly wherever in a pattern and decide for itself, where it should go.
So, here's another question for you guys. Let's say you got these drones going out, like we think there probably will be, Elon Musk's drones. Is the computation, and there's going to be a vast amount of computation, is the decision making at the drone level, I mean, not the orders being given, but how to do the mission. Is that computation done in a mainframe in the United States and then sent over? Or is the computation done in the drone's brain itself, its CPU on board? Wouldn't that be dangerous to have its own CPU on board, rather than the CPU back at Texas and then just the basic information sent over?
I think then you have the delay, the information going back.
Well, it's definitely going to have a CPU.
Yeah, I mean, that's right, though. But you have to drone operators have to deal with that delay. So, I mean, within reason, obviously.
There's probably a part of the AI that you can delegate to a mainframe if you don't really need that it's like very near real time. But another part of the AI, I think you really need it to be computed on board.
You have to assume you're going to be completely jammed, that no spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum is going to be gotten through.
Agreed, because we all saw what the EA6B could do.
I think you're going to end up with parameters programmed into the drone to say you are free to operate in this area, and then that way it's kind of your failsafe. It won't go off and start blowing away civilian schools.
I see it in a much more short term being almost like, and this is sort of a separate topic, but like the magic carpet that they programmed into the F-18s and the F-35s, now it's called Delta Flight Path or whatever, that makes carrier landing like trivial. Like absolutely trivial for pretty much even a novice pilot to do. I can see this being incorporated in the fly-by-wire system of you get into a dogfight, you hit the magic button, and then maybe the plane makes you pass out, getting its guns kill.
There's a very valid point on that with ground collision software and stuff, which has only recently been introduced into a lot of US planes because they were dead against having a computer taking control. But since they introduced it even recently, I think there's at least 8 pilots that have been saved by the anti-ground collision software.
Well, it's in our cars already.
I mean, AI is really starting to take off now, isn't it? I mean, who knows what's going to be possible in the next 10 years, 15 years from now.
let's talk about then one thing I haven't heard anything about today, and I don't know a lot about, but about conspiracy. So I was talking to RC about this. He didn't want to do this video because he doesn't like the idea of, you know, Skynet, right? So the Elon Musk's thing is taking over. Any thoughts on the kind of conspiracy side of thing, if that's the right word, or yeah?
Oh no, yeah, I definitely believe that there's better technology already out there that we don't know about. I mean, my opinion's always been whatever the elite have, you know, those who carry out the elite of the elite. I mean, you know, ones who build this, the ones who control the scientists, the ones who control Darpa, even whatever, you know, the ones who have built that new Hadron Collider, etc. Those people, whatever technology they have, we will never have it until 10, 15 years after they've had it. You know, it'll always be dribbled down to us as a thing, you know, for them to just make money on. Once to them it's old. But I mean, you know, that's a matter of opinion.
Well, it takes time to go from scientific innovation to monetizable product.
I think that's the driving force, though, isn't it? It's the dollar or the pound or the euro. I think if these guys can create a piece of software that will, in theory, potentially look at dogfighting or flying a plane or, you know, taking 100% control or even part control, it's something that is being driven by the fact that if the US military is interested or other militaries are interested in the product, then that's what's driving it forward. It's not necessarily any magical bigger picture, perhaps.
I mean,
well, nobody works for free.
So I'm glad you mentioned Skynet, because I think that's one of the key elements that captures our attention. I think the two key elements is that Skynet, the concept, is basically an eventuality. Science fiction has captured our attention. I think that really is something everyone can sort of imagine. I think the artificial intelligence advancing to that level is an eventuality. I think what we may be seeing is the very first tests of the man versus machine with an actual armed, deadly, killing machine, which is something that I think might mark an actual milestone in human evolution. So I think the fact that we know the what we refer to as creativity or thinking, it may just, you know, we know that the machine is going to be able to do that thinking or calculations based on lookup tables and memory, and it will perform better than a human brain, and we've tested it in things like chess. I think, you know, dogfighting is some form of that man versus machine, and I think this is really, you know, the first actual test. And I agree that it's a foregone conclusion that these systems will be self-contained and on board without the need for any type of communication or electromagnetic contact.
So you're thinking they're doing the thinking. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. So
I mean, there's no doubt that they do better thinking faster. They can make decisions faster. There's no doubt about that. I mean, people haven't got a problem with that. It's just, can it make a decision? Like, can it look and say, okay, well, if I drop this bomb now, I am going to actually cause more pain than like more suffering and pain than I am, like, you know, going to solve a problem. So can it make that decision from a pilot? I mean, you know.
I thought it was very interesting that the winner of the competition wasn't actually an artificial intelligence, like a self-learning one, like what most people think of. It was a traditional program with different algorithms for different scenarios.
Yeah.
It wasn't, because if you watch like the Lockheed one, I recommend you watch the videos. You can actually see their control inputs like in DCS,
cool.
and it's like maximum stick deflection, right, left input on like all axes all the time. That's trying to fly a straight line. Well, they didn't program it. They fed it a bunch of training scenarios and let it learn, and it flew like crap. Whereas the winner was a traditional program where they actually, you know, taught it like, here's your bank angle, here's how to bank, here's how to get behind someone.
So the AI didn't work then, by the sounds of things. The AI didn't learn quick enough, didn't learn well enough, right?
Well, and to go to T-Rock's thing, we've already had computer against man. That's what a missile is. That's what an AIM-9X is. That's what an AIM-120 is. That's what a Meteor
You see,
missile
for
is.
me,
That's
can a missile kill the enemy without any collateral damage? Once they can get missiles to do that, I mean, then AI will become perfect. But at the moment, can they do AI without collateral damage still? Because no matter how good your AI is, if you still kill innocent civilians on we sent a drone out, it was AI, it was state of the art, but still innocent people died, you're always going to have critics, and you're always going to have...
I mean,
that is the ultimate question.
Yeah.
I mean, but look at the Google cars. The Google cars came out, and they were meant to be infallible. They're meant to drive everywhere, and they hit humans.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they will probably get better and safer, and eventually they'll probably make almost no mistakes. But it was uproar.
It's trial and error for me, I think. It's just that they're going to come out with a version. It's going to make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. But over time and trial and error, I think, yeah. But I don't think we're there yet.
On the AI side,
it doesn't have to be perfect.
You need a lot of test and training data. So one of the things that could happen, which would be great, is if Eagle Dynamics made their AI an API, so that they could just unplug their AI logarithm, and this Darpa project could come along and plug in their AI algorithm, and then they could just fly against. I mean, I don't know how many sorties per day there is in DCS, but
have real pilots go up against all of us.
Well, we need one distinction we're making that I've kind of learned to respect here is what is AI and what's not AI. So AI, my understanding of what AI really means is that it can learn. I forgot who said it. One of you guys said it earlier on, that you just put it in a scenario, let it test, and it'll learn. That's AI. What we call AI in DCS is not AI. It is literally subroutines that have been tested by humans, isn't it? It's not really, it doesn't learn. Nothing in DCS learns. It's not technically AI.
It doesn't learn from the mistake it's
right.
made.
It's a computer. It will just do the same thing again and again and again because Dimitri is programmed to do that. AI, which is kind of what really this is what this video is really about, is the thing that actually it's almost the electrical computerized version of the human brain. It's a learning computer, to say Arnie in Terminator 2. That's what AI is about. But a really interesting thing is how it didn't win. I just found that fascinating.
The Heron system wasn't a pattern matching one. So what people think of with those training sets, that's not traditional AI. That's what people have marketed it as. But all it is feeding it patterns and rewarding it, saying, yes, this is good, do this, do this, do this. It's how they do like facial recognition. There's no logic behind it, though, and it's very hard to determine why it chose one thing versus another because no one's programming it. It's just pattern matching.
So isn't that a dog's brain then? Isn't that a dog's brain? Give it a bone, or give it a dog treat when it's done something good, and it slowly matches those patterns.
Right, but if you shock it,
easier to counter.
Yeah. I mean, that's the key. Look at what they do in the crowd for the disrupting the pattern matching of the cameras in Hong Kong. It's trivial to make it go, oh, I don't see a human face there anymore.
Okay, so if these drones, whatever, had AI in the truest sense that they could learn and they could think, do you think they would be easily susceptible to, I don't want to say jamming, but countermeasuring via other AI? So human brain can't be countermeasured very well. Okay, it's very hard to countermeasure a human brain. I can't think of any examples really, but you're not going to fool a human. That's a plane. I'm going to shoot you. Could you easily countermeasure an AI brain that's out there if you knew how it was programmed?
Yeah, I'd say you'd be a lot safer with pilots than you would be with a fleet of drones today. Definitely.
EA6B proved it. My brother worked on the Prowler for many, 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 many years, and some of the stuff that those ECMOs were able to do with cell phones was absolutely amazing. So if they can scramble cell phones like that, what's to say that we can't reprogram something like that with a pilot and 3 ECMOs?
We already have towed decoys that look like the Typhoon or the Gripen. We have quick deploy things that make normal ships, small ships, look like a carrier to fool.
Isn't that the crux? Sorry to interrupt, but isn't that the crux? So you've got a Eurofighter, that's towing a decoy. The cleverest missile in the world, an AMRAAM-D or whatever, can't distinguish the difference. It gets fooled by that. It thinks the decoy is, that's hanging behind is the real ship. A human will never get fooled by that. The human can see, I'm not dumb. I can see that's just a decoy. I'm not going to shoot at it.
But the AMRAAM's only utilizing its radar.
Yeah, exactly. But
optical or anything else. So you need a whole bunch of different sensors which can distinguish between them.
So
my point is, though, the guys who made the countermeasures also, if you like, made the intelligence, quote unquote, for the missile. So because the missile has a massive blind spot, a weak spot, you can exploit it really easily by doing that thing. If you made a bunch of drones, really clever Elon Musk drones, at the end of the day, you've programmed it at the end of the day, you know its weak spots, you'll just find a way of countering it really easily, surely. That's what I'm trying to kind of drill at here.
Oh, yeah. Easy enough. And we see that today in modern warfare all the time.
Explain.
All a missile is a self-contained AI killing drone, joint standoff weapons,
they have
carrier kill missiles. But they have programs running on it. All AI is just software. It's just software at the end of the day, gussied up.
Well, it's a specific type of software. AI is what's generally referred to. Okay, this is kind of a controversial question, I guess, but what's generally referred to AI in like modern and contemporary popular discourse or whatever you want to call it, they're talking about neural network AI, like neural
machine learning
AI that are trained with sample data, like that. Missile, the flare rejection stat, that would have been at one point. I'm sure they use AI to optimize that now, but at one point that would have just been a computer vision algorithm similar to the one that OpenTrack uses to or TrackIR uses to track your head. Similar kind of logic.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is something different.
I think what we are. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. It's okay.
So I think what we're
kind of a tangential point. Go ahead.
T-Rock.
I really think what we're drilling at is reducing the argument down to human brain versus electronic brain.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah, and then the fighter jet is just the hardware, and what we're really drilling at is the software. And I do suggest that it is just an eventuality that the electronic brain will surpass the human brain. And I think really what we're drilling at is, has that occurred? And then when that does occur, if it's possible that it can occur today, if that occurs and when that occurs, I think really represents a milestone in human evolution.
I mean, I think it's already occurred. It's just not in this aspect. Like in many other aspects, computers are far more, intelligent than humans, and already have been proven so, and we use them today in many computers and things. But when it comes to making decisions, I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, guys. Getting quite late now, so we'll think about finishing off now. First question, any of the quiet guys, because some people are quieter and some people are louder, any quiet guys want to put their point of view forward?
How long before they strap a nuke under one of those drones and then just let it run on its own?
Ooh.
Not good.
I mean,
ICBM?
Yeah. Would you ever trust, an ethics question there is, would you ever trust a AI of some sort with a weapon of mass destruction? I mean, it sounds crazy, but the whole idea of MAD was crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the limitations of AI, though. There's three big ones. One is the AI that work best with problems that are easy to parameterize, like chess, or things that you can identify clear dimensions where, okay, this is better in this situation. And something like a nuke, like an AI deciding whether to launch a nuke, like independently, like what information do you need? Like you need, what is Donald Trump doing?
Amount of information.
Maybe he eats a burger one night and somehow that affects the timeline and ends up, there's lots of things, like the butterfly effect is what I'm getting at. It's very difficult to actually
free will, right?
Give it all the information.
It's whereas we have moods, AI doesn't. Do you know what I mean?
It's not.
It doesn't have free will, right? So even if you have an order that says drop X bomb, whatever.
We might not feel like doing
we
so.
might not execute that order because it might affect our moral compass, right?
Yeah.
Well, didn't they make a movie about that where they landed on the ship, that autonomous one, and what was that movie?
Dr. Strangelove?
I don't know.
They had that AI that landed on the aircraft carrier, and it had the 3 pilots, the
stealth.
What the heck was that? And that he wouldn't stop bombing the target, and they had to shoot him, or he went rogue.
It was stealth.
Yeah, stealth, exactly.
Stealth, yeah, that's the one.
Okay, guys, that was a really good chat, and I've learned a lot by it, and we've got some interesting opinions. So I'll summarise. The DARPA trials sounded really interesting. The fact that AI, it doesn't even sound like it was an AI, it just sounds like it was a well-optimised bunch of subroutines, which is, there's nothing smart about that. You know, anyone with half a brain can go and put some subroutines in there. Well, maybe not quite, but you know what I mean. Beat a pilot, you know, bearing in mind a pilot, however good they are, they're just not very efficient creatures. It's just a creature at the end of the day, living and breathing, makes mistakes constantly all the time. I don't think it's anything interesting. Well, what we were talking about is interesting, the possible futures of AI in future combat, Elon Musk's dream, and then going on to the inevitable ethics, which will always come into this. Can the AI feel emotions? Can it understand, you know, the value of human life and things like that? Really interesting questions. Any kind of final wrap-up point that anyone wants to kind of put forward from this?
I think the thing that scares me the most is if stuff like this makes war inexpensive.
It's a fair point, isn't it? Isn't it a good idea that war is very expensive to do, because then you don't do so much of it, right?
I think it'll make it more expensive.
Probably a good thing.
There is the moral question that
you know, it's less to lose.
Well, as far as the expense goes, I mean, I can do facial recognition on my little ESP32 processor, which cost me what, $5?
Does anyone care to vote or make a prediction on who would be the winner and the outcome
of what?
I think that they haven't revealed the results of the air combat evolution winner. Is it?
Yeah, it's 5-0. It was 5-0. The AI.
Of course, the AI is going to win. The AI is going to win every time. It'd be crazy if it didn't. It would just be a terrible piece of AI or programming if it didn't.
That's a very specific task, though.
Out of
it's just what kind of test is it, though? Is it like the pilot has to do this? The AI does what? I mean, if you just go, right, there's a jet, do what you want, just take that AI, you know, that AI out the sky. The pilot obviously is not allowed to do that. He has to fly a certain way, so the AI is always going to win. But if you just...
This test is a very small test in that it's to the computer. There's no difference between this test and playing chess. I know from the way we visualize things, there's the differences, but it's just a bunch of rules it's following. You know, those rules are gravity, air resistance, weight, you know, physics. It's just following those rules, and it's just the same as the chess, and it's always going to beat the guy in the end, however good that guy is. So, I don't know, it's just simple logic to me.
It also has access to a vast amount of knowledge. I mean, again, look to IBM, Big Blue playing Jeopardy. You know, beat the Jeopardy guys because it's got access to all the knowledge in the world at an instant. And that's always going to help in any kind of battle or fight.
Cool. Okay, guys. I enjoyed that, but I do have to go to bed. Otherwise, my new wife is going to kill me. Thank you for that. You can guys continue to battle it out of your brains if you want, but I am going to bed. We'll see you guys later.
Take it easy.
Thank you, sir.
Take it easy.
Okay.
Thanks, Cap.